Hey, everybody. It is Kim, and I am live on YouTube and the Facebook. And so if you got things you want me to talk about, I am here for it. I don't know that this is the most flattering color on me, but this is a very comfortable t-shirt I just got at Old Navy, and it was warm, and I am wearing it. I don't know. You always wonder what things look like online. And that is not the point of this video. This is not a fashion show. This is a let me know what's going on in your world. And Dennis has joined. Hey, Dennis, good to see you. I met Dennis. Well, I've met Dennis before, but I saw Dennis when I was in Utah just a few days ago at Keto Chow doing the live stream from Keto Chow that we did. So if you go to Keto Chow's YouTube channel, you can watch that chat if you want. It's my general goofy self. And Dennis got a copy of Common Sense Labs. So he is reading that book. Hey, Val, nice to see you. Nice to see everybody that is joining the live stream. I am back in Berkeley, back into my routine. Always happy to get back to it, but I feel very inspired after my trip to Utah. It's always good to be around people rather than just in my house. Although I am antisocial at this point and I like being just in my house. But, you know, my job is almost impossible to do if I don't actually interact with other people on a regular basis. And interacting with other people gives me a lot of good insight and also a lot of good realizations and things to think about coming back from a trip and talking to people and being around other people. So I'm very both happy to be home and happy to have gone. So that was all good. What is going on in my world? Well, today I was cooking. I always cook a little bit on Tuesday and just enjoying getting some things checked off on my to-do list. Hey, Stephanie. Yep, home safe. Platte River Keto says, really enjoyed your talk at the meetup in Utah. Really spoke to me. Thank you. Thanks so much. Yeah, what I talked about was kind of some of the thoughts that we have in our head around, well, kind of like what we think we should be experiencing and why a lot of us fall off the wagon and how to stay on and how to stay focused. And I mean, that's what I talk about most of the time. I had my first experience of, I think I've been to, what's it called? It was steakhouse. Was it Outback Steakhouse? Now my brain is not working. Texas Roadhouse. That's what it was. Went to Texas Roadhouse, I think I've been there before, but it was the first time I ever got prime rib. And so that was an interesting experience. I have to say, I'm definitely more of a ribeye girl. Apparently it is the same cut of meat, but the prime rib is slow cooked. And so it's like a very, very, very tender, texture. And then the ribeye is fast cooked. I like the ribeye a little better. I like my fat browned. But it just brought home kind of, and I've been talking about this a bit today, in camera more, like the way I used to eat when I first started keto versus the way that I eat now, and then being around people that eat more like I used to eat. And it's always, my brain is always a little bit like, when I go back to sort of traditional keto, because it's often easier if I'm around a bunch of people doing more traditional keto rather than more like high protein approach. I could go with the flow. Very simple to do that. And so, like if I was around my family who doesn't eat keto at all, you know, or low carb at all, you know, I'm not going back to that way, but there's kind of like just an adjustment you make. And so, you know, traditional, very high fat keto is super yummy. So it's not a hardship at all, but it's interesting to see how my brain tries to like my brain is just a little bit like, what are we doing when I'm doing that. So I definitely enjoyed the prime rib, But like I said, I actually think I'm more of a ribeye girl because like in prime rib, you end up with like sort of chunks of like white fat, which I'm fine. Like some people eat around that kind of thing. I like to eat the fat if I have fat to eat. Um, but I like it a little browned on the outside. So I think I'm definitely going to go back to the ribeye as my primary meat when I get that cut anyway. I'm sorry, my teeth are glowing. There's like a light is hitting my front tooth, and it looks like I have like a diamond implant in my tooth. I do not. It is a normal tooth. It's just a weird light ray. Um, anyway, what about you guys? What would you like me to talk about today? That was just an like a little interesting moment. Um, to come back to about like, oh, what do I want to cook when I get home, getting back into my normal routine, eating at home versus eating out, and what are the choices that I make. I made a new creamy tonight, for tonight, so I'm really looking forward to trying it. I got a protein powder, not from Keto Chow, just I did get a lot of great Keto Chow flavors, but I got a new one. I heard about a new flavor called white chocolate macadamia from PE Science. So I'm making a creamy that is in the freezer. I'm looking forward to trying that after the stream tonight. I will report back on how tasty it was, but I'm expecting a sort of white chocolatey, salty, nutty, ice creamy flavor. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. What else is going on out there, people? I'm looking forward to going on the low carb cruise in like about 10 days. So that will be interesting. Maybe we'll try to do some live streams from the boat with Nisha and Ken and Nurse Cindy. There's so many people going to be on the ship that are going to be very interesting to listen to. And it's going to be a good time for me to get together with some of my good friends on trapped on a boat, as you will. And I tried on some outfits. I think I'm covered. I think mostly I'm going to end up wearing dresses because it's so comfy. You get out of the habit in the winter, and then I have all these like summery dresses, and so I'm like, all right, packing all the dresses. Jean is going to be on the cruise. That's so exciting. We'll have to do it is going to be one big meetup. We will definitely be spending a lot of time hanging out as a big group, doing the events. It's going to be super duper fun for all of us to be together. I think there are like 350 people going, which is a lot more than were on the cruise in years past. So that is exciting. I'm sure it's because everyone's happy to get back to sort of normal in the post-COVID days and experience a get together with some of the restrictions lifted that were experienced before. And that'll be super awesome. Val says, I like wearing dresses in the summer. Yeah, like it's, I guess that's why seasons are nice. Even where I live, their seasons are pretty mild. Like the difference between summer and winter is not that big, but it's still enough that it's nice to get different clothes in the experience. And so, yeah, that it is what it is. I don't think, oh, Jean, I don't think I have a single dress. If I do, it's in the way back of the closet. I live in jeans. Jean, it's good. Your name is Jean. It works out just right. Because of like the way I am shaped and the way that like my body distributes, I'm not as comfortable in jeans as I am in a dress, like physically comfortable. Because to me, most of my dresses end up feeling like I'm wearing my pajamas or like a nightshirt. Whereas in jeans, I'm like, I feel like a sausage. And so I don't like that. I don't like any restriction. So I like things kind of loose and breezy. And so I do struggle a little bit though, because where the clothes that I'm most comfortable in, I don't think they necessarily show my figure off to best advantage all the time. I tend to buy things just a little bit too big. And for me, this is for them to fit in my chest area. I also have a really broad back. So if I make it fit in the chest, then everywhere else it's kind of loose. And then, but I can't anyway. But anyway, so I often choose comfort over anything else, to be perfectly honest. And so often people are like, "That's too big on you." And I'm like, I know, I know. It's so funny because I give my mom crap all the time for wearing clothes that are too big for her. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, I am my mother. I am indeed my mother. Anyway, Jean says I only have stretch jeans. Yeah, Jean, but even the stretch jeans, I mean, for me to be like really comfortable in something, they need to be like breezy. Like even the stretch, it's a little compressing. Anyway, I mean, I will wear them, but if it's warm at all, I'm like, I am hot, and this is. I feel like a sausage. I don't like that feeling. I want a breeze in my clothes. We all have our thing. Stephanie, I love dresses and flowy hippie skirts. Hate jeans too. I wear leggings or harem pants. Oh yeah, the harem pants. I don't have any harem pants this time, I don't think. But yeah, those were my jam in the 90s. Living in Ohio, Amish country, no one looks at you when you wear tennis shoes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, right? You have to think about the footwear. And that's why in the summer it works out with the dresses for me because I'll wear Birkenstocks or sandals in the summer with dresses. And I think it looks perfectly normal. Like, I also have some like cute tennis shoes that work fine with a dress, but like the like really comfy tennis shoes, those look weird with a dress to me. But yeah, Amy says, I'm in Florida, so wear a lot of skirts. Too hot for jeans. Patty says, my husband and I will be on the cruise too. I like skirts, said Terry. Yeah, I can dig that. I can dig the skirt. One of the dresses, the dress that I wore to Utah recently, it's a really long dress. There's a picture up online of me in it. It like comes all the way to the top of my feet. It's like a full length dress. And I'm like, put the dress on. And I was like, this dress is only for tall people because I can't, it has like lace on the bottom. I was like, how this dress, I'm like a minimum height for this dress. I was confused for the world. Anyway. But yeah, I luck out on that because if something's too short on me, then it's like still wearable. But I feel bad for the people that are under 5'5". You guys have it rough with lengths of things. Val said it's the look here. I tell my husband, yeah, I look Mennonite. The dresses and the tennis shoes. I get it. Yeah, when I was in Utah, I was like, is this what people wear in Utah or is this the trend? I think it might be just the trend. But there was a lot of long dresses with, a lot of long dresses. Like sort of the prairie dresses look. I guess they're in fashion right now. Thanks, Dennis. Dennis says I always have an outstanding public wardrobe. When Dennis complimented me on the way I dress, I said it's because when I'm at home, I'm always in pajama pants. And I will say these are my pants. They are pajama pants that I am wearing right now. So it is indeed that at home I barely get dressed. So that is probably why I appreciate putting on a nice dress when I go out. What does the E stand for? Dennis, I'm not 100% sure. It's the longer title. Hold on. Where's this book? It is the same test, but I'm like, what does the E stand for? Let me see. I could probably Google that faster than I could find it in this book. Might be something like erythrocytes. It has something to do with what they are filtering, is what the E stands for. But off the top of my head, I do not remember what it is. I will add that as a comment when I figure out what it stands for. But some labs just write it as GFR and some write it as EGFR. But I think I'll Google. This is exciting TV, isn't it? Estimated. There, oh, Jean got it. Estimated glomerular filtration rate. E. Estimated. There you go. Which will tell you that it is an estimate, not a calculation, right? So thank you, Jean. Jean has come to the rescue, but right as I looked it up. Appreciate it. Dennis, there you go. That's why. Also, some labs write it as blood urea nitrogen, BUN, and some write it as urea nitrogen, so just UN, but same thing. So yeah, there can be a little bit of difference from lab to lab on that. Anyway, what would people like me to talk about tonight? Because I don't know that everyone came to hear me talk about length of dresses and things like that. Maybe you did. Maybe you just want to know what's going on in the world. So that was what's on my mind. Thanks, Betty. No, Betsy. That's Betsy. Hey, Betsy. It just says B. And I was like, nope. I am, what else is going on? Made a creamy. I made some little cauliflower rice for myself for tonight. We're going to have steak. We're having a tri-tip that we cook. So we buy a big tri-tip that's like $4 a pound, which is super good price. And then we clean it up, trim it up, cut it into steaks, and we cook it in the air fryer like a steak. And it comes out so good. So we're having tri-tip tonight, and I'll have some cauliflower rice. And then I made some little cheesy spinach bites. So I'll probably have some of those. And that is my dinner plans. I don't know what you guys have planned for dinner. And I'm going to finish dinner with some of my new creamy that I'm very excited about. And to make that creamy, I found the recipe in a group that I'm in that makes high protein creamies. And so I'm doing the macadamia, white chocolate macadamia nut protein powder with cottage cheese and almond milk. That's basically what's in there. And I'm going to have that for dessert. So that'll be yummy. Jean says, I'm having trouble losing weight. I'm thinking about doing a deep dive into labs. Do you have a recommendation as to where to start? Common Sense Labs is a book that Dr. Barry and I wrote. And it goes through all the labs that you probably want to look at. So I will read them to you so that you don't have to be in the dark. But A1C, so this is the annual labs list. A1C, CMP, Comprehensive Metabolic Panel, CBC with differential, which stands for Complete Blood Panel with differential, a C-peptide, a vitamin D. Oh, you have the book. Vitamin D. I'll just read it so people know. DHEAS, a SED rate, a ferritin, a fasting insulin, a total iron, GGT, homocysteine, HSCRP, lipid panel, magnesium, phosphorus, TSH, and urine analysis. And we also are actually adding a B12, a copper, a zinc, and a vitamin C to the list for the next printing. And then if you're also having any symptoms of thyroid dysregulation and not being able to lose weight, is that. So I would also get a full thyroid panel as well. Dennis says hospital labs versus private. I don't understand the question, Dennis. So they're the same labs depending on, but if you go through a hospital versus a private party, it's more about insurance or how you'd pay for it. So I'm not sure I understand your question. But if you're struggling to lose weight, the first thing I always say is this first step, if you're struggling to lose weight, is to track your macros for a week or two. So put everything you're eating in a macro tracker. I recommend Chronometer for most people. They have a free version that's just fine. Then you're going to be looking at all of those numbers that you ate, what you actually ate. And sometimes you can see in there, oh, I'm eating a lot more than I think I am, which is easy to do, or I'm not. And then so you get that basic like check-in. That's free. Do that first. you might be able to see what's going on. I see you say you're eating carnivore to ketovore. Track for 2 weeks. And you might find, oh, I'm eating a lot more than I thought I was, or a lot less. And then from there, you might be able to make some adjustments to how you're eating that might fix the problem of not losing weight. So I would start there. And then from there, I would get some of those blood labs. What's a creamy? Asked Yvonne. It's a machine that Ninja makes. It's called a Ninja Creamy, Creami, Ninja Creamy. It's basically like an ice cream maker, but it makes sort of lower fat ice creams better than ice cream makers do, like higher protein, that kind of thing. So anyway, but you can make high fat things in it as well. But it's a kind of a neat, flexible, easy to use ice cream maker. That's basically how I would describe it. Jean says, ugh, I hate tracking, but I'll do it. Well, I'm not suggesting you do it as a permanent lifestyle choice. But when you compare that, like if you just have never done it in recent days, you're potentially missing out on a place you could get some useful data from. And then that might solve your problem. And then wouldn't you feel much happier not having paid $600 for a bunch of blood labs when the answer was actually in your hands? So not that you don't need these labs done regularly anyway, just to check in on your health, but look for horses before you look for zebras, right? Look for some common sense, straightforward things, and then you can go from there. Jean said she got a CGM. Glucose is pretty steady, just under 100 at all times. That's awesome. But stable blood sugars don't cause weight loss. It's important to have good blood sugar levels, but just monitoring your CGM and eating ketovore, for some people, that's enough, right? They clean up their diet and take out a lot of the extras. Their hunger is better managed. But for other people, they can gain weight on ketovore. So I find if you track, then you have some like real hardcore data. But think of it as an experiment rather than a lifestyle choice, right? If you're like, this drives me crazy, I hate it, then just think I'm just doing an experiment. Why did I miss something? Michelle asked, how can you get the doctor to run them? Okay, so go to your doctor and say, I would like these labs done. And if they're like, I don't think you need those labs, I'll just run these. The first thing I know Dr. Berry would say, and so I'll repeat it, is, okay, if you won't run these labs that I think are pretty essential for figuring out some things going on with my health, I'm going to need you to put that in the medical record that I requested these labs and you refused to run them. And a lot of doctors won't put that in your notes. They don't want to say, I refuse to give you these labs. Because if you later become ill in some way that these labs would have helped them check in on, they have a liability suit on their hands now. So always say, hey, okay, if you're refusing to give me a script for these labs, I'm going to need you to put that in my chart. Now, I will say, I can't promise, and your doctor might say, your insurance isn't going to pay for these labs. And you have to know if you're okay with that. I am okay with that. So I would say to my doctor, I don't care if my insurance isn't going to pay for that lab. I want the lab. And then what you can do is then take the lab slip to LabCorp or wherever. And like I know now when they'll tell you how much a test will cost. So you can get the cash pay price on a lab. And so then you can go into it knowing, oh, okay, so a lot of those tests are like $45. They're not going to break the bank. I got the whole panel from the book and pay out of pocket, and it cost me around $500. Now, if my insurance will cover some of those tests, so it might have been if I went through insurance that maybe they wouldn't have paid a 1 or 2 tests, I would have paid out of pocket for those 1 or 2 tests. Maybe I'll pay $45, $50, $100 while my insurance will cover the rest. So you just have to make those calls on your own and just go into it in an educated fashion. If your doctor won't write the prescription for these tests, in I think now 46 or 47 states, it's at least 45. You can just get the labs run yourself. There are services online. You can go to Ulta Labs. You can go to Quest Direct. There are Own Your Labs, run by Dave Feldman and his crew. That money actually contributes to low carb research. So you're doing a good thing. There are all these places you can go and click on all the labs you want, pay the bill, and just go and get them. So there are other alternatives. Terry says, stupid New York is all I can say. Yeah, New York is one of the states where you can't do it. It sucks. Dennis says, you could eat ice cream for all your meals. Easy with keto chow. Absolutely. I actually think that, one of the levers I use for weight loss is level of satiety. Okay. So a lot of people will talk about this. It's not a mystery, but if you're going to try and lose weight, you have to choose foods that increase satiety. Hopefully that makes sense. If you're choosing specifically foods that aren't very filling, you'll have a harder time losing weight because you'll have an easier time overeating. So they found that the more liquid meals versus more chewing, the thicker a food is, the more viscous it is, the more viscosity it has, the more filling it is for most people. So I find making my keto chow or other shake, whatever shake, into a creamy, which I have to eat with a spoon rather than drinking with a straw, I find that a lot more filling. I also find using keto chow or other protein powders in baked goods more filling than necessarily eating it as a shake. So I don't do a lot of shakes, but I use a lot of shake mixes to make things into creamies or other things. But hopefully it should be obvious. I talk about these alternative foods more often, I think, because they're unique. But the majority of my diet and the majority of everyone's diet should be real whole food, like solid, identifiable foods. So in case anyone was confused, my diet is not 100% creamy and or baked goods. It's mostly things like I'm having for dinner tonight, which is I'll have a small amount of the creamy for dessert, but my meal is a steak and some vegetables. So there you go. That's what happens. Melissa says my net diary is a good for tracking. I'm a little bit reactive to anything called net, right? Because I don't track net carbs. So I don't know. That puts me off. But if you like it, I'm happy for you. The reason I like and suggest Chronometer is because the entries in Chronometer are double checked to be accurate. So that's why I tend to recommend Chronometer. But I'm happy for anyone to use any app they find works for them. Hey, Tony, thank you so much. Nice to have you here. I have my sippy cup, as always. Okay. Melissa says you can choose total carbs in my net diary. Well, okay. All right, then. Yeah, there are a bunch of different apps. There are some that I've been testing out that aren't free, so I don't recommend them all that often to the general public because I want to recommend things that people can use for free. But I have 4 different apps on my phone that I try out at different times to see what I think of different apps. So when people ask me, I can give my best input on them. And I'm trying one out now called Macro Factor, which is so most apps are what I would call static, which is you put in your macros, you figure out your macros, or it might help you figure out your macros. Make sure you don't believe them automatically. Make sure your brain is engaged when you're deciding on your macros. But as an example, Macro Factor is it has machine learning in it. So the idea behind it is based on what your weight is doing, it will start recommending changes to your macros to keep you on target for whatever goals you have. So you might tell macro factor, I'm trying to maintain my weight. I'm trying to lose weight. I'm trying to gain weight, whatever your goal is. And then it'll adjust weekly based on your check-ins. So what's actually going on. So it's got feedback in it. I'm trying it as an app, seeing how it's going. It's made by, it's not just keto, but there are keto or low carb options in there. So you can do different things. It is a slightly more complicated app to use, but I'm trying it out. Anyway, Stephanie says, what do you mix keto chow with? I'm flying from Washington to Kentucky to visit family. I figure it might help me not to blow it too much there. I just mix keto chow with almond milk. I don't use cream with it because I eat a moderate fat diet, not a high fat diet. So I'll do keto chow and almond milk, but again, I don't do shakes very often. I do it as a creamy, which changes things up a bit. But my favorite thing to do actually is use like a little bit of a protein powder in Greek yogurt to like flavor the plain Greek yogurt with. So I've got like a mix of some keto, like I'll use like a quarter serving of keto chow in a thing of Greek yogurt and have sort of a Greek yogurt keto chow mashup. So, yeah. So if you want to make the keto chow shake, then I would say, some people use like the full amount of heavy cream. Some people use some heavy cream and some almond milk. We're all a little differently. I find some people do really great on low carb, moderate protein, high fat. But I find the majority of middle-aged women trying to lose weight do better on higher protein, moderate fat, low carb. But that doesn't mean every single person who watches me is in the majority. Majority is not synonymous with everybody, right? So there are some people that do better on a slightly higher fat approach and some people that do better on a slightly higher protein approach. So in terms of the keto chow powder itself is mostly protein. So what you mix it with, like heavy cream or melted butter, that's almost all fat. Versus if you choose almond milk or even something like a Fairlife milk, like a lower carb milk, that's then going to be more protein, less fat, right? So finding what you're going to, I know I'm making this sound more complicated, but you got to find what works for your body specifically. And so I tend to, if I'm mixing keto chow or a similar type of shake up, use like unsweetened cashew or almond milk or yogurt. Really. When I'm doing yogurt, I don't do the full packet, or else if I were trying to do the full packet, I would need to water it down with some almond milk because it'll get like cement unless I was using a lot of yogurt. Risa says, I mix keto chow with my homemade yogurt. My favorites are chocolate core, key lime, and blueberry pie. It grosses people out to see you eating something blue. Yeah, blue food is not super common in the world. It is not. Because actually, it's funny because blueberries are blue on the outside, but if you mix blueberries with anything, they turn purple instead of blue. So different. Yeah. Blue food. I saw a creamy recipe the other day and I was like, what the heck is in that? It was like super blue. Dennis says, I'm hedonistic. I titrate the keto chow to 400 milliliters and work in 14 tablespoons of heavy whipping cream. Yeah, you do what works for you. When I first started keto, was eating 85% fat. So I was eating a very, very high fat diet and it worked for me until it didn't work for me. And then I made some adjustments to find what worked for me then. And I think that can be often the thing that we experience, right? That we do what works for us and we stick with what works for us until it doesn't anymore. And that's not to guarantee it will stop working for everybody. It's just to say if something isn't working for you anymore, don't be an idiot. Look for some alternative ways to make your life work. Don't Don't go with the sunk cost fallacy, right? Don't think, well, I've been doing this so long, I can't stop. It's not religion. It is a way of eating. And your way of eating should serve you now. It doesn't have to be dogmatic. So if Dennis lives, I know Dennis has lost a lot of weight and turned around a lot of health issues. And if squeezing as much fat into everything you eat as possible is the way that you stay healthy and happy, I support you. And I do not deny your experience. And I also am out here to say other experiences are true for other people, and I want to support everybody. Tony asks, if you do total carbs on low carb, how many carbs should you eat? I don't know why, but my brain just went to, how much wood should a woodchuck chuck? Anyway, what I would say is we're all different. When I was very metabolically ill and I wanted to be in ketosis, I would have to keep my total carbs under 20 grams of total carbs. Now I can be in equal levels of ketosis up to around 50 grams of total carbs. And so, the amount of carbs I eat might be different than the amount of carbs you eat. I would say, as an example as well, as a sedentary, middle-aged, chubby woman, that's a different profile than, I'm not talking about you, by the way, I'm talking about me, than a young athletic man. He might be able to eat 100 grams of carbs and be in high levels of ketosis because of how active he is and how he's using those carbs as fuel, versus somebody else who has to stay under 10 grams of carbs to stay in ketosis, right? So there's a lot of variability, and it's very hard for somebody else to answer for you how many carbs you should stick to. I would say that if you are metabolically not great, right? You don't check all the boxes on metabolic health, keeping your total carbs to somewhere between 0, like there's no bottom limit. Somewhere between 0 and 35 is probably a very good idea. If you find that even that many feels a little too high, then you can go under 20. But if you're like, my life is a lot better if I can have a little more broccoli with my dinner, and so I sometimes am up as high as 35, for the average person that does not have epilepsy, for example, I think that's probably fine. So finding your appropriate level is going to just depend. And I often say it depends on the choices that you make. If you're using a few more carbs, but they're like vegetables, that I find less problematic for people as long as you tolerate those vegetables, than say if all those carbs came from like a keto bread, right? Cheryl says, I'm doing 20 total carbs. How do I know if I'm in ketosis? If you really want to confirm you're in ketosis, use something like a Keto Mojo and check your ketone levels. Although I will say that 99.5% of the population after 8 days of 20 or under total carbs a day will be in ketosis. So it's almost everyone will be in ketosis at under 20 grams of total carbs. And that's why in the industry, we say keto is 20 grams of total carbs and under. It's because it works for almost everybody. And we give you the lowest common denominator, right? Because I don't know your metabolic situation. I don't know, Tony, I don't know what your metabolism is doing, right? So because I don't know what your situation is, for me to safely recommend something, I'm going to recommend what works for almost every single person. But from there, you can tweak. So how do you figure out what your carb tolerance is? You can bump it up a little bit, test your ketones, see if you're still in ketosis, if you need to be in ketosis. Does everyone need to be in ketosis? No, everyone does not need to be in ketosis. But if ketosis is important to you, you're probably going to have to be a little more strict. I know that might be heretical to say not everyone needs to be in ketosis all the time, but not everyone needs to be in ketosis all the time. It depends on what's going on. Now, when in ketosis, a lot of people experience a lot of benefits. So I think there's a lot of good reasons that somebody might want to be in ketosis, but I also don't think we need to flip out. I think people have this idea that like if you're trying to lose weight and you're using keto to lose weight and you're like in ketosis, in ketosis, in ketosis, and like one day you're like just above the level, like your ketones are just like just slightly low, and then the next day they come back up. That just because there was that like 1 day dip or 1 hour dip, like as soon as you're out of ketosis for just an instant, like all like 20 pounds is going to come flooding onto your body. That's not how the body works. So I don't think we need to fear monger around ketosis. If your reasons for being in ketosis are just general metabolic health and your well-being and all that kind of stuff. Now, Angela here mentions that she has a neurological disorder. It's going to be more important for Angela to remain in ketosis than for the average person who's just trying to be a generally healthy person, right? And so I don't want to suggest that ketosis is a bad thing in any way. I think ketosis is amazing, but I also don't want anybody fear mongering that the instant you slip out of ketosis, your metabolism will collapse and all the fat you've been eating all week will come rushing onto your body as body fat. Whereas if you just maintain ketosis, you would be safe in the safe zone. That's not how it works. So even if you are like in and out of like it's a scale, right? If you're like just kind of bouncing along and sometimes you're under, sometimes you're a little over, whatever, no harm on that. Really, that's not how the body works. But again, if you have to remain in ketosis for neurological issues like epilepsy or other neurological issues, then you're going to want to be a lot more careful. So, but a lot of people, I think, think that if they're out of ketosis at all, the fat loss will instantly stop. They'll put back on all the weight. Everything will explode. That no doesn't. No need to be that afraid. Hopefully that helps people instead of angers people. I found recently I anger people. I'm sorry about that. I don't mean to. All right. So back to Tony's question. If you're trying to be in ketosis and you're kind of new to this situation, although I recognize your name, I don't think you're new to it, but I would just stick to 20 and under most of the time, and you'll probably spend most of your time in ketosis. Angela said, I told my doc keto is not a competition and maintenance is not a location. Yes, that's true. Maintenance is a verb, right? Maintenance is not a destination that you get to at the end of your weight loss journey. Being in maintenance is an experience that we can practice on the way to the end of our journey. Anytime I am getting a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, anytime I am getting a little bit off kilter in my head around my food relationship, that's when I head back to the maintenance experience, and my food sanity improves. So how do I define that maintenance experience for me? It's a very solid understanding in my own head that I am not trying to lose weight right now. I'm going to be in maintenance for a little while where I'm trying to maintain my weight for a week, a month, 6 months. I don't know, but some period of time, I'm like, hey, I have some other fish to fry right now. I got some other things I want to work on, including some mental clarity, which I find can get a little wacky sometimes if I'm trying to lose weight forever. And I go to maintenance and I'm like, I'm going to hang out in maintenance for a while. The reason I say I'm going to hang out in maintenance for a while, because maintenance is a very sane place. Maintenance is where I say, hey, I'm going to eat in such a way that I'm fully nourished. I feel good. I'm eating foods that are good for me, but I'm doing it at a level of eating where I'm not attempting to see weight loss, but I'm also not trying to see weight gain. Because my past history, right, was diet binge, up, down, weight, up, down, up, down, up, down, right? Now I'm like, hey, I'm going to practice eating at a level where my body just keeps on keeping on, just maintains this current level. And it takes a lot of the stress off. So I think periods of maintenance in our weight loss life is very important to people. And if I get all wrapped up in losing 10 pounds for the rest of my life, it's kind of like wasting your life. I mean, I've seen it. Who has family members? Who says this actually that you're talking about me? Like I see family members in their 80s who still say to me, if I could just lose these last 10 pounds. And I'm like, maybe if you didn't think about that every second of every day, your life would just be a lot less stressful. I'm not encouraging anyone to be morbidly obese for the rest of their life in any way, shape, or form. But there are times when it is good to say to yourself, I'm going to be okay with myself for a little while. I'm going to be okay with where I am for a little while. I'm going to work on some other things. Like I'm going to be more active and I'm going to get better sleep and I'm going to make sure that I eat and make the food choices that make me feel happy and sane and fulfilled. And I don't feel kind of hungry all the time and irritable and hangry and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to do what is best for me right now. I'm going to be my own parent right now and make good choices in my life. And for me, maintenance takes me back to that like deeper understanding. And so I'm going to be okay there. And I have just entered a period of like true maintenance, not pretend maintenance. Like true maintenance for me is where I'm like, nope, I'm not trying to lose weight. Like I am 100% clear on that. Pretend maintenance is where I'm like, well, I'm going to eat at this level, but there's a part of me that really hopes that I see the scales go down anyway. Now I'm like, no, I'm not trying to do that. Not even trying a little bit. And there's a lot of freedom in experiencing that mindset for a while. So that's where I'm at. That's what I'm doing now. And I got to say, it's so amazing. Part of me definitely, and I've talked about this, part of me is like, people are going to see me in Utah or on the cruise or at this thing or at that thing when I leave my house, and you're not just seeing my face, right? And I want to make a good impression, and I want you guys to think good things about me. So I want to lose these 10 pounds. So you think I'm successful at my weight loss journey, right? Like, I mean, that's the voice in my head, right? And I was making myself nuts for a couple of months with those kinds of thoughts. And then I just got really clear about what I was doing. And like, I was like, oh, that's unfortunate. And oh my gosh, you guys, since I like got on board with, hey, like I'm okay here and people are going to be okay with me here. It's not the relationship we have. I feel like I look better. I feel better. I'm clearer. I'm not, tortured. Like I tried on some clothes. I was like, these look pretty good, right? Like it's amazing how much craziness we engage in when we feel like we're not being successful about something. And sometimes you have to say like, is this a good goal for me right now? Anyway, I hope that was clear what I'm talking about here, that sometimes we have to say like, am I spinning about something that just doesn't serve me right now? Anyway, Suzanne said, I look beautiful on Saturday. Thank you so much, Suzanne. You looked amazing as well. So it's good to see you. Yeah, sometimes you have to, I was saying this today on a coaching call that it's now 7 years or 6 years since I've weighed over, what I weighed at my highest. And so now, because we only have so much span that we like recognize, now I'm comparing myself to who I've been the past like 2 or 3 years, which is about the same size I've been now. So it's easy for me to say like, oh, well, not much has changed. But it's like, don't lose sight of like how far you've come from the beginning of your journey. I'm still down 100 pounds. Like that's a lot. Just because like, what am I going to ruin the rest of my life about the 10 pounds I'd like to lose when I've lost 100? Like that's dumb. So, but sometimes I do it anyway. Anyway, I am not a coach because I'm perfect, people. I have not reached perfection. I am a constant work in progress, just like everybody else. I have a real strong theory that when we're really naturally good at something, we're not very good teachers about it. People who've never struggled with their weight, I don't know that they make very good weight loss coaches because they don't understand where people are coming from. So I got to remember that and remember that that's how I help people, by sharing my experience, my story, my struggles, because hopefully that is helpful. My job is to be helpful to people. And if I'm like protecting my own ego as a choice instead of being helpful, that makes me a pretty crappy coach, in my opinion. Anyway. Suzanne just passed her 4-year anniversary of starting keto. Well, congrats. Oh my gosh. I think I did too a couple days ago. It was mid-May. My boyfriend's birthday is mid-May. And so, yeah, that would have been my keto anniversary about a week ago. Anyway, funny. I didn't even think about it. What forces? Wow, you're speaking right to me. Yeah, right? It's like, this isn't perfect. I'm throwing it away. What? Anyway, hopefully, my ability to make fun of myself is my best quality, in my opinion. It's nuts out here. It's nuts in here too. My own little brain says all sorts of mean things to me if I don't pay attention to what I'm doing. But you guys, I'm so happy. I'm so happy right now. It took a while, but I was kind of lying to myself for a few months. I was like, I'm good. I'm fine. I'm good. I'm fine. I was kind of being mean to myself, and it was causing me some trouble. So now I'm like, whew, what a relief that I'm being honest with myself and upfront and being like, oh, I made some bad choices along the way. Like, not in terms of what I ate really, but what I was telling myself, and the story I was playing over and over again in my head. Anyway, it's funny how we can be our own worst enemy for sure. So anyway, any other questions before we close for the evening? We've got a few more minutes here. Grapefruit salt is available from Element again. Grapefruit salt is my favorite flavor. And it's only available for part of the year. And just so you guys know, you know how people like me will tell you, go to this link? Mine is drinkelement.com/Kim Howerton. Whenever you go to one of those links with a name attached, that person, the company gives money to. I'm going to be honest with you, right? So who you choose to put their name at the end of it means you're kind of giving a little tip to whoever you might choose that name on. And I would just like to give a plug to say, if you enjoy my content that is free and you would like to help support me, that can be a great way to do it. And so just put in Kim Howerton/Kim Howerton when you buy your products from Element. And I would really appreciate it. And yes, I do. They do give me some cash, which is lovely. It's very nice. And I wouldn't recommend the product if I didn't recommend the product. And I totally recommend the product. This flavor is out of this world. I love it. I love most of their flavors. And it doesn't cost you anything, and it benefits me. So that's why I say, hey, if you're planning to buy it anyway, stick my name on the end. I would really appreciate it. Anyway, so that is my plug for this evening. If you would like to contribute to the cause, you can do so. And by the way, if you're on if you're on YouTube, you can give me stickers and super chats, or you can like the stream. So like, subscribe, do all those kinds of things. All of that is very helpful to me. If this content is helpful for you and you want to get the word out that other people should pay attention to it, I would really appreciate any of those ways of helping me out so that I can continue to help other people out. So thank you for joining me tonight. If you have any other questions or thoughts, I'm always happy to hear about them. And if you're watching this on replay, I do respond to comments. So go ahead and ask your question and I will answer it. Vicki, I don't actually right now have those codes, but I need to sign up for them so I can offer them. You're right. I will, Vicki. I'll get to that. I'm a terrible marketer. All right, guys. I will see you next week. Enjoy your week. Take care.